Hi everyone, it's Carolyn here to share another message. However, I'm going to try some things differently as we move forward because oftentimes what will happen for me is I will get an idea for a channel, but then I'll start getting information coming through right away. And so what I'm doing, because in many of my sessions, I just channel right in front of people. And so I'm going to do that with you today and possibly in some of my future videos. So I'm going to pick a topic that has been forefront in my mind lately, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to talk to you just like this, but it's information that comes through that I am to mention to you. And so it will not be a channeled message from the Light Keepers today, but it's channeled information that I receive that I'm offering to you on this topic today of managing difficult emotions during the awakening journey. And we've got 3 tips to share with you that I have already been offered. And of course, I'm going to also, as I do this channeled information, I'm going to also speak to you about some of the learnings that I've had as well. So you're going to get that takeaway too. So sometimes I start talking really fast when I channel. I'm going to try not to do that. That's still a challenge for me. But anyway, so stick with me. I'm going to try to complete this in a way that is not rapid fire. But anyway, thank you for joining me today. For all of those of you who are new to my channel, Carolyn Zaiser, I do have a free video for you down in the description box, and it will actually offer you 6 tips on how to create flow in your body for health and wellness. And it also offers you a lot more free content once you follow that link. And so you'll get more information in addition to these YouTube videos that you receive. So with that, welcome, and I'm just going to get starting to talk about this. And we'll see what comes through. I know they've already given me a little bit of information ahead of time on this, but so as we go through the awakening journey, we have so much emotion that bubbles up. Because here's the thing, part of the awakening is to bring to the surface the things that we have stuffed down, not over just this lifetime, but over eons. And in particular, we have selected lives that we will bring through in this incarnation to clear. Many of you are going through that now. But as I've mentioned before, you may not be able to identify those lives. That's not important. But what you are going to notice is you're going to feel emotion attached to that event in that past life or in this current life. All right? Forget whether you identify it or not, but you're going to identify the emotion because you're going to feel it. All right? You're going to feel potential anxiety pop up. You're going to feel potential fear pop up, which I'm going to talk about some of these things. You're going to feel sadness, sorrow, and you're not going to understand where it comes from. But number one, what I want you to know is this is natural in the awakening, that from day to day, first of all, we're bombarded with all of the energies coming in that we have to take in, that our bodies are taking in to help us ascend. But at the same time, we're dealing with a lot of things we've stuffed down over the years, all right? That's coming up to the surface. So now they're giving me a vision of a pot on the stove bubbling, all right? And as any water does, as it starts to get hot, it starts to bubble up from the surface, and then you get the bursting out. That's us, okay? Now, the bursting out can be in all different ways. Lots of times this can happen with physical kinds of things that I've talked about previously, in fact, very recently. Rashes, things like that, all right? There's a whole wide range of that. But today what I want to talk about is the emotional part of that. There are 3 things that I want to talk about today that you can do to help yourself manage through difficult emotions. Now, you may have your own ways of doing this because you've probably been there before and worked on doing it, but what I want to have you avoid having happen is you're just lost in the misery of this feeling and not knowing what to do and just basically shut down. Because I firmly believe, and I've seen this in my journey, we have things we can do. We do have some, I want to say, control or participation opportunity in these things that happen to us, in these emotions that show up for us, all right? So one of the first things is don't get paralyzed, all right? I do that, and fear will do that to you. So we have a lot of emotions showing up. When we have the fear emotion show up, you can get paralyzed and just stuck in that fear cyclone, and that's me. All right, many of you will be able to relate to this, and you get tightened up, tied down, and that's all you can think of. Now, what I've done most recently is I've made myself literally snap to. Okay, it's like, okay, wait a minute. I need to get out of this cycle of complete fear. Like I'm in my house a lot, all right? I'm not terribly social. I don't go out and do a lot. I kind of have my routine. So what I've got to do is break out of that routine, because lots of times what will happen is I'll just sit and let it happen in my home and feel miserable, all right? And let that fear overtake me and paralyze me. No, 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 no. Go out. Get something done differently. I don't care what it is. Something different, not in your routine. I don't know, go watch a movie. I'm just thinking of a few things now. Go watch a movie, get on your bike, go biking if you don't do that regularly. Just go distract yourself for a while. Do something different, all right? Go to a museum. Go call a friend that you haven't talked to in a long time. And even if you kind of don't feel like you want to do that, do it, okay? Because it's going to help burst you out of that pattern that we get in when fear shows up, okay? It's particular to fear where this works for me, all right? When fear shows up, it is paralyzing. And to break out of that, something different has to happen, all right? Something different has to happen. And so bring into your awareness of what you're feeling, all right? And pick something different to do. Now, the other thing to do, number 2, is sit with the emotion, okay? Now, fear can be a little bit different than that because, frankly, I get paralyzed. It's sitting with that emotion for me is hard, although I think it can be done. I'm not sure I've mastered that. So I distract myself. I go do something different, and it does make a difference, all right? Because remember, these emotions are human created. Honestly, they're not real. I mean, they're real to the point of what we feel, but they're not real in the sense of how big we make them most often, all right? So if we can just breathe into that and spend time with it. So let's think of a different emotion other than fear, all right? But you may be able to take fear and do this. But another emotion is sorrow and sadness or anxiety. This is a great one. So when I'm feeling anxious, I'm like, okay, something's going on here. What do I feel? When did it start? Where do I feel it could be coming from? What could I possibly be anxious about? So what I'll do is I will actually lean into the anxiety. Now, fear, I'm not saying I run away from it, but I do distract myself from it. That helps me. Maybe it'll help you. But with anxiety, I try to lean into it and understand it. Not that I really want to feel it, but I want to understand it. Well, what I have found is so often, for me, the anxiety is tied to energetic shifts and changes. Moon, sun, in spades, the solstice, the eclipse, the recent full moon, and all the full and new moons of this year. And frankly, before that, I think I've mentioned to you, I've not really been affected by that as much. So the thing is, spending time with this, kind of understanding it, because you may, once we understand something and able to kind of, I'll just say, put a label to it, a lot of our fear subsides, and sometimes even the anxiety. I find with anxiety, though, what I have to do for myself is I need to meditate. Now, some of you may be saying, oh, I don't meditate. I can't meditate. That's not going to help me. Breathing will. I can guarantee it. Get out in nature even. If you aren't a meditator yet, and as you know, I'm a firm believer that this is the foundation of awakening. If you're not a meditator yet, okay, and I'm not talking about anything tough, but just get out in nature, go hug a tree, walk barefoot, let some of that anxiety out. Because lots of times what it is, I have found, it's extra energy. It's extra energy in us that causes us anxiety. So what will happen with me is I will go meditate when I start feeling anxious. It works every single time, because what happens with me is I expel energy by huge deep breaths. They're almost like a yawn, and this has happened just starting this year. They're almost like a yawn, but an amazing exhalation that takes me over the top, kind of like over the hill, and it's loud, and it just comes out of me. And then eventually I feel, as I'm relaxing into myself, more of these breaths happen. More of these breaths happen. And I will actually be breathing so much at times, letting out extra energy, because remember, we're housing this energy that's brought into us, that's causing the anxiety because there's too much in us. Then what will happen, I find, is this is interesting. My eyes will start watering. It's not tears, but it's just, again, it's extra energy coming out and down my cheeks. It's fascinating. I always feel better. So I would say lean into this as number 2. Spend time with it. You'll start finding ways to deal with your own emotions, the different ones. So we've already talked about fear and anxiety and things that you can do, all right? Or that work for me, and that's why I want to share those today. So again, don't spin around. Start spending time with it, all right? Start spending time. And lots of times what you're going to be able to do is you are going to start realizing that some of the memories and some of the things coming up may very likely have to do with what you're feeling. Old relationships that maybe have not been fully, I'll just say, completed. Memories that are difficult. Those kinds of things, or even feelings you can't identify, which oftentimes can be from past lives. So don't push them away, don't stuff them down, because again, the awakening's here to let us bubble these up, all right? So what you're going to do is try to spend time with them in any way you can. So the third thing that I have found extremely useful and actually came to me from my spirit team was to then take all this, okay, collectively if you want, or you can do it individually. And 2 things you can do. Wait for a new full moon to come up, all right, a full moon, and release it into the full moon with a short ceremony. I am not big on ceremonies, but I have learned in 2019 the power of them because I feel different literally the next day. I'll go to bed afterwards after I do the little ceremony, and I'm not kidding you, it's as though, oh my gosh, I think I just released more energy. I'll wake up the next morning and I'm different because, as you know, so many days are different for us as we get up in the morning during this awakening journey. But the full moon release ceremonies are huge, all right? I light a white candle. This is my simple ceremony. I open up my blinds, and assuming the full moon's out, and if it's not, I still do it, and I just say my piece. I offer into the full moon tonight this, and I state what it is. I give gratitude for this part of my journey. But it is no longer serving me to feel this way. I release it into the winds. Forget whether you can identify where it's coming from or not. If you can, sure, identify it. But release it and ask the full moon to assist you. It is super powerful, I have found. You can continue to do this over and over in the full moon. Now, I'm going to add something else. I firmly believe we can do this at any time. The full moon's a powerful time, but you can do this anytime you want. I always bring my spirit team in along for these ceremonies. But you could do this in any evening that you're feeling this. They're listening to you. The moon hasn't gone away. It's just a more powerful time in the full moon, all right? But you can still do this. So I'd say start getting into the practice of learning how to manage your own emotions. Now, granted, you're not going to want to suppress them. They're coming up for a reason. We're feeling them for a reason. So learn what to do with them. Patterns that you see in yourself. Things that you know that have worked. Don't just succumb to all this, all right? We're a participant in this. We're not here to just lay flat in the floor and let it run right over us. We're here to participate. And these are 3 things that you can do to make a difference when you're feeling extreme emotion in your awakening journey. So I hope this has helped you today to take these 3 things and experiment with them because you are powerful. You have more control than you know. This process is going to happen, and we have a choice. We can either, like I said, lay flat in the floor and let it run us over like a train, or we can participate and find things that help us as an individual during our unique journey. So I hope what helps me today and what has been offered to me through this session is information that you can take forward on your own journey. So with that, I'm a channel, I'm a spiritual awakening mentor, and I'm a distance energy healer. And of course, as always I say, I would love to work with you. Check out Purple Rain Healing for my channeled messages session where I'm now offering in-person sessions where we can record those. We get on Zoom together and we actually talk together and I do a channeled session for you and you get that recorded and sent to you after. So I would love to work with you on any service you choose of mine. And with that, I thank you for joining me and I will see you in the next video.